Good morning. Good morning. Vita. Welcome to this week's Dharma Talk here at beautiful Valley Rica in beautiful Costa Rica. Mark is going to sit with Lisa today because Monique, who is doing the talk, didn't come. So, welcome to them. It's going to be great. Happy Thanksgiving for the Canadians, the birds, and the U.S. and everybody. We have much to be grateful for, including these guys. So there you go.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Maybe Monique will show up. Hopefully she does. I know her car is in the shop, so that could be part of it. But Mark has graciously agreed to sit with me. Right. Is it? Do we have many new? Who has not been here before? Just one. Okay. Oh, welcome.
Barbara. I'm kidding. Your name is Barbara. Margaret is fun.
And who was not here for my previous talk a few weeks ago? Okay.
You were here.
The one with Monique.
The one with Monique.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, who was not here?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Pay attention.
I'm going to translate.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well then, I think we should introduce ourselves. So, I'm Lisa Virtue. I'm from Ottawa, Canada. Been here for 4 years. And Ruthie keeps asking me to come up and talk about what I do in relation to Buddhism, and I never quite know what to say, so I haven't done it yet. But in short, I have... Oh, there she is. Thank you, Mark.
I've been dethroned.
Okay. Where are you going? Oh, Monique made it.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've
I'll just talk about myself while you say.
we haven't done a meditation yet.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, did
So you're right near the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So for me, I have let's say developed my extrasensory perceptions over the years, and really
Talk up, honey.
dived into spirituality in many different forms, and have found some really positive modalities from that, and also learned to connect with non-physical intelligence, whatever name is attributed to that, that only offers love and wisdom, beautiful wisdom. So I use those in my practices, and I teach yoga and do singing bowl sound ceremonies with Mark and lots of things like that. So Buddhism to me just fits right in with everything. There's in yoga there's the yamas and niyamas, and which are most of these. You know, they're pretty much the same with a few slight differences. So this all just resonates, and I'm glad to be able to share some of what I've gleaned over the years, and I'm sure it will resonate with things you already know. It's just about bringing ourselves together in community and seeing, what lights up for us. So that's me. Who are you?
Oh, that's the question. That's why we're all here. Who am I? I am a seeker of truth, and more and more I'm recognizing that each of our truths have one unique flow of river that we can step in, step out of, and then we have our own unique experience in each moment. So I spent a lot of time working in the mental health field, and then was working in fitness, and now I kind of put it all together with the aspects that we can't name, we can't label. And one of the things that is always so I appreciate is I've spent a lot of time working with anatomy. And in anatomy, the Latin root of the word to dissect, right? And like the whole basis of what anatomy is, breaking it down into its parts, right? We have all of this path, and there are these specific components. We can examine each one. Each talk can be very focused on a specific topic. And then it's about the whole thing put together, because it's not right work, right action, and I'll forget about effort. I can't focus on effort. Like in the beginning, there is that dissection that has to happen for us to take it in, to embody it. And then, you know, Ruthie was talking about this within sometime in the last several weeks, this idea that once we put words to it, I think Mark, you also touched upon this, once we put words to it, we actually aren't there anymore. So what you're sharing about your experience, very similar to my own, is there's so much when we release the mind aspects of the knowing and the words and the labels, we touch something that is universal. We touch something that is beyond. And when that is presented in a way that is very scientific, and here's the statistical analysis, we can get caught up in that is how we know it's true. When I look into the eyes of my dog and she nuzzles up into me, I don't need scientific proof of that. The feelings, the connection, the depth of presence that's there. Even the pang of grief, knowing that one day she'll be gone. And then how do I come back to that presence of just remaining with what is? So for me, you know, we kind of discussed this a few days ago. I exist on a spectrum. If science, geekery, and the material world and how we measure it is here, and the hippie, foo-foo, kumbaya, woo, wow man, the fans are wild today, is over here, I do my best to kind of hang out right here in the middle. But both are a part of my experience, and both are true and both are valid. And some days I might be more in one direction, some days I might be more in another. And it's more, for me, how do I connect all of that into one unique experience?
Thank you.
So that's me.
That's big. All right. Thank you. Let's do our meditation before we. So find a comfortable seated position. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I'd like you to follow along with me here. I'm going to clap. When I clap, you clap. But keep your eyes closed for that. All right? So not watching me clap, you're listening for the clap and then clapping. All right? So let's. Slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. Would anybody like to share what that experience was like for them? How it affected their meditation?
I felt like it was a unique way of getting into no mind. I appreciated it.
Anticipatory.
Anticipatory.
I thought it brought you very much into the present moment. It brought your focus into being right here, right now. And then when you waited, it was easy to wait for, like coming back to the breath, it was easy to wait for the clap. I thought that was very effective.
Yeah, and at the beginning, as we got faster, we all come in a, I don't know if it's agitated or, more excited state, and the claps kind of catch our minds that are doing that, and then we bring ourselves slowly down, and yes, that waiting gives your mind something to focus on, just enough.
The focus, when you're just clapping, you're listening to it and all of that. But when everyone starts clapping, that's when the real skill comes in, because you've got all this clapping around you, and you have to focus in on that specific clap. Yes. And then it even changed a bit. The clap changed; it wasn't exactly the same. So then you have to more focus on the location and try to
So it
anticipate.
got softer.
Yeah.
But when everybody was clapping, that was really. There was a couple times where I'm like, I just thought we were all starting it ourselves. You probably weren't doing anything.
I just kept thinking we were like, now a round of applause at that point.
Well, I thought it was weird. Somebody sneezed or something over here, and I sort of. I don't know why, but that would have been cool if the whole room had gone.
I noticed what was interesting was the more that my personal experience was, the more that I got into presence and relaxed my attention, the more I almost clapped, like as you clapped, instead of like anticipatory and like waiting and doing it just after. And then that changed too. It was so many things.
I will thank Mark for that meditation.
One of the things that I like about that meditation is when you're in a group environment, we all want to be social and we want to interact, and our minds get really, really busy, and it's hard to calm the minds afterwards. And at one point, everybody is clapping and everybody is focused on themselves in that particular moment and how they're interacting with Lisa, who's leading it, but they're also aware of everybody else around them who is in the same headspace. And so not only are we centering ourselves, but we're centering ourselves as our Sangha, as our group at the exact same time. And so collectively, we're all moving in the same direction.
And I really enjoyed the physicality of it, right? Again, because that's our deal.
Yeah.
It's the embodied aspects. And it's so much easier when you have something like either abrupt or that requires your focus in the physical to come back to that presence. So that was really fun.
And go ahead.
I was just thinking, it's almost like a mantra.
Yes.
It's a form of that. And if you're doing a personal meditation, it would be a good way when your mind strays from your breath, even though your hands are already set, you could do it with your hands open and clap yourself back. And it might help to accentuate that, knowing that your mind just left. And it's not, because the meditation isn't in the breathing, it's in the coming back. It's bringing it back. So if you could add that little bit.
I actually do that just in my day-to-day life. If my thoughts get going into something that's really unpleasant for me, like I'm thinking about something that's got me going, I'll clap and like shake it off, and it breaks that momentum.
Yeah.
And then I go, no, I'm going to shift to something else.
Very good.
Yeah.
So in the world of, in the world of the metaphysical, sometimes that's known as a clearing technique.
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
We're just like,
I had like 3 different things.
when we get
that
in
came
phone
to
calls,
mind.
like, in is it Tibet and Nepal? They use, the Buddhists, I believe, use bells, and they make noise, and it's harsh noise. It's not like fun, soft singing bowl that's like clang, 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 and they're clearing the negative energy. And from our, metaphysical perspective, like I was saying, what my sixth sense is tuning into that energy, and so for myself, I've come to be able to feel energies, like I can go like that and feel where there's some energy, and I've approached it with an open mind, like Ruthie was talking about before, with that childlike open wonder and curiosity. And
Shoshin.
that's right.
Shoshin.
Um, so just I've just
Beginner's
explored
mind.
that. Yeah, just explored that without,
I like
is this
saying
right,
that.
is this wrong, is it a thing for me or is it not? And so it has developed as something for me. But so when I hear that they're using that sound to break up energy, it's like, yes, of course, because it's all vibrations, and that vibration can, you imagine it crumbles, so it helps to dissipate things that have collected and congealed and gotten sticky or soft or hard or negative. These sounds actually break that up, just like a kidney stone would break up with sonic vibration. Similar thing with just energies themselves.
And I've had mentors explain in like sound healing with sound bowls and gongs as a preparation to that experience. If you notice a sound that is jarring to you, it very likely is moving something that needs to move in you. And then this idea of adding a clap or a bell, one of my meditation teachers, we were in a workshop weekend, and my friend who owns that yoga studio happens to be one of the busiest women I've ever met. I think she just keeps herself very busy. I've actually never seen her in a still meditation. She's always scratching, and she said to our teacher, I'm a mom and I'm exhausted. Is that why I'm like falling asleep during meditation? And he explained to her, let's go through a meditation, basic shamatha practice, so silent, eyes open, just breathing. And he said, I'll ring a bell a few times, and if it wakes you up, you're not asleep, you're not tired, right? If you'll sleep through it if you're exhausted.
Right.
So it can be helpful to use these tools, clearing techniques, to witness ourselves and to get aware of what might be a residue to our energy. And it can be something like a shower. We all know if we're like frustrated and we go in the river or we just rinse off, there's this shift of the energy that happens. Smells can do it. Places, you were saying that you can feel these energetic vibrations. How many of you have ever stepped into a cathedral or a holy space anywhere in the world? The energy there is very different than a used car dealership, because of what goes on there, because of what mind states everyone is in, because of what is being supported and how much there is a hush, how much the energy is being cleared, or what's kind of building up.
And it's why Valley Rica feels so amazing.
Yeah.
We gather here every week, and I don't think there's anyone that comes onto the property that is like,
I think that's why Papagayo feels amazing. I think it extends out
yeah,
quite a
there's
bit.
just something about, and there's a, I guess
So
a
this place has a very special energy because of the activities that take place here
Exactly.
and the people who want to be here.
yeah,
Nobody's here unless they want to be.
I'd like to add to that, and again, this is a nod to Mac and Sharon, of what they consciously do here, because we were listening to a story. I can't remember how or when, but essentially they were digging a subway somewhere, and they found this incredible temple that was just meters from the subway when they went to excavate the building. So here's this incredibly powerful energy that's been buried underground, an Egyptian artifact buried underground for centuries, and nobody ever knew about it. So we can talk about the energies that that are here and doing things and everything, but if you don't connect with it and embrace it, it just goes dormant and quiet. Where Mac and Sharon have opened their hearts and everything and embraced the energies here and invited us in, which makes it even more so.
Right.
And an example, I feel, of what you're talking about.
yeah, and so this saying or phrase is, where attention goes, energy flows, and results show. So we meet with our intention and our focus on the positive and uplifting and how we can live wonderful lives in harmony with each other, and the energy goes there, and the results are this beautiful, peaceful, inviting space that we all love to come back to every week, and we bring more and more people because we like it so much. But this is true throughout our lives, and we're not necessarily aware that we're doing that. So when if you meet someone who is just negative and they only talk about how fearful they are or the concerns they have, or they watch news and TV all the time and that's all that they're going on about, they probably aren't feeling so great. And then it starts to, that energy builds, their whatever aura, they're just around them, and then the things that come into their lives. It's like you have a Pigpen from Charlie Brown, so he's got all that dirt around him. So they've accumulated this, energetic dirt.
Yeah.
And so anything interacting with that is affected by that. So it's, you'll find that things that just occur seem to be following that similar vibration. So it's like, oh, why aren't things working out for me? Or of course this is going to happen, and then it just builds upon itself. Whereas, when you start consciously redirecting yourself to something more positive, then you're like, wow, this miracle just occurred. It's like, because you're in the vibration space of that miracle to occur. Like, positive things can happen. People just pop up out of the blue with what you need, or when things do occur, you're not perpetuating the negative. You're like, okay, I'll take my moment, but now I'm going to keep cultivating my field so that it doesn't take over my life. So we can consciously use this, and however you think about it, you're feeling the effects.
Yeah, and that we have so much fun on the phone together. We can go forever and ever. But there's this aspect. I have it actually written. My house is a really interesting space. It's a Tico house, and it was built, the whole bathroom is just glass panels that have been painted gray so that they're not transparent to the outside world. But so I took dry erase markers and wrote myself messages on the wall there that's facing the kitchen. And I one day had this moment where I was really aware of where my focus was going. And I was aware in the good moments and in the not so great moments, and witnessing myself. And the affirmation I came up with is, the miracle is the moment you remember everything is magic. Right? So these words can lose meaning when they get overused. I live in the Diamante Valley. That's where all the hippies live. That's where all the, it will just come to me, I just manifest, and yay. And it's like, well, aren't you living on someone's land and they built that there for you to put your head on that pillow? I'm confused.
It's the same voice I do.
So I love my community. I appreciate every flyer and every coach, and I'm a coach. I appreciate everyone who's saying, I will teach you how to manifest the man of your dreams. And there is some validity to that awareness and that presence. But it's always around us, and it is about, I'm going to drop a sciencey term. There's something called epigenetics. How many of you have ever heard that term? Oh, great. I'm so glad not everybody raised their hands. I get excited when I get to share these things with people. So epigenetics is this concept that the old paradigm of, okay, my great-grandmother had cancer, my mother had heart disease, so it's in my genetics and I'm doomed. That's going to happen to me. Epigenetics looks at this power that we have within us to place our focus somewhere and actually impact the health of every cell in our body. So every cell in your body right now is responding to me talking and what you perceive about what I'm saying, the claps that we did, how your morning went. It's all programming what cells will die off, what cells will, multiply, and that's who you're going to be tomorrow and the next day. So when I've taught yoga classes, a lot of times I'll encourage people to acknowledge you're not even who you were 10 minutes ago. So there's power there. We have the ability to utilize that in a really profound way. So I can't remember her name, but I will look it up and find it for you guys. There is a health coach out of Long Island who was the first person who shared this in a way that made sense to both the hippie and the scientist in me. And I was at one of her lectures at a fitness conference, once in Virginia and then once in Bangkok, Thailand. And she was repeating some of the same ideas. She has a great book she came out with called The Hidden Messages in Food. And she uses some of these ways of understanding ourselves to go more deeply into the yogic aspects of the chakra systems and what foods you're craving or what foods you're averse to, and how that could influence or be influenced by where the imbalance is within your body, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. So an example of something like this is if you know someone or you are someone who bitter greens, I can't eat that. Well, that's the heart chakra, because bittersweetness and the ability to be with bitterness is an open-hearted practice. And so you might benefit from eating that, or if you look a little bit deeper. But she went even further, and it was a really funny moment at this conference because, like I said, it takes all kinds. Science geeks and hippie freaks, I identify with all of them. And she dropped a specific statistic that has stuck with me. 70% of the thoughts that you have today are from yesterday. So this is why we can witness family structures where, there's no such thing as racism in a newborn baby. But if that is in a household and repeated often enough, then it becomes part of someone's way of being in the world. That's why when you asked, well, who are you? Yeah. I'm like, that's an interesting question. But it means we have 30% wiggle room. And I'm going to do a little exercise with you guys. I want you to close your eyes. Maybe you've done this before. Professional athletes do this a lot, so it's been proven to be beneficial and helpful. I want you to imagine, just now I magically handed every single one of you a juicy, ripe orange. You can feel the oil, the orange oil on your palms. Maybe it's changing the texture if you were to check in. And go ahead and peel that orange in your mind. Notice the smells. Notice if your mouth begins to water. And just get as far in touch with every memory you've ever had about an orange. Really connect with that experience. Maybe if you want, imagine yourself taking a bite of it. Notice the flavor. What's the texture? Getting into the connective tissue, the stringy white bits, the pulp. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, and if you really like oranges, you might be sad for a moment because it's not here. Did anybody smell, taste? Yeah. Your cells in your body do not know the difference between that experience and you actually having an orange. So this worry, right? This watching the news and programming ourselves to be in that stuck, heavy, the world is not a safe place, we need to worry. That becomes truth. That becomes the truth of your experience. But it also means that closing your eyes when you're not at Bali Rika and imagining all of the energy that Sharon and Mac, have put in here, and really feeling that love and that connection, or every footstep you've ever taken, we can all do that anytime. And this is that 30% wiggle room. This is what we have. And they've even found with research on happiness, for example, that about 40% is up to you. 40% of what your set point might be. So in psychological terms, there's kind of a set point. Some people are darker. Some people tend more toward worry or more toward pragmatism. I'm one of them. And most of the people I know would say, oh, she's such a happy, fun person. I'm like, you don't know how dark I can get. And it is a choice. It is an active component of my life to continue to practice this. But it changes my biology. And I can see it in real time because I can witness family members who are not spending their days doing this, not coming to places like this, not surrounded by Costa Rican nature and beauty and having these conversations. So that's what I consider the miracle. That's what I consider the mystery. It's always accessible. It's there when we're not looking at it, and it's just a matter of closing your eyes and grabbing the orange.
Yeah, thank you for that segue. That this idea that it's always present. So I feel like in the Buddhist teachings and in all the teachings, thank you. Enlightenment to me is unveiling what's already there. It's like we're peeling away the layers to what was already there the whole time. And when we were messaging and you used the word manifestation, and that just manifestation, depending on who's talking about it, have very different let's call it viewpoints. So there's one when let's say the people you were mocking might say, I'm going to manifest I'm going to manifest the new this man in my life or a woman in my life or whatever, and coming from a point of lack or fear, just from a not empowered place. But when you look at manifestation from let's call it the top down, where if we sat in meditation, released the thoughts, released the outer world, and allowed ourselves to be inspired from from source, from your true self, from that part that when you connect in with that, you're like, yeah, that's the thing that knows, that's the part, and that inspires you. And then when you move into the world with that idea, it's true because it just feels that way. And so the actions that you take, how you relate, all come from this is a knowing that I have, and I move forward with that. And then the manifestations are things that come from that. Like we talked earlier about the energies you're putting out there, then you'll see, whoever has come into my life, or someone sent me here and I went there, and then I met this person, but not from feeling like I have to make this happen. It's like, I've been inspired to go this way, and then I was inspired to move this way. And that, I find, when I live like that, life goes really beautifully, really smoothly, really happy. And when I get distracted by the thinking mind that wants to figure it all out, then it's not so happy anymore. And it's like the mind is trying to solve the problems of the mind from within the mind, and it just makes it worse. So it's that's why we come back to the meditation, to release that and connect in with that part that can lead us in our best path.
That's easy for you to say. You already have the perfect man.
Just
asking.
So I want to elaborate on that point. So this is that was great. I love that.
Why did you have to go and tell him?
So everything tends to get a little bastardized once it enters the mainstream consciousness, right? Once it gets further and further from the source. So that even this idea of manifestation, there's a couple of the fathers and mothers of what now has started to become, the YouTube phenomenon that everybody's going to tell you how to live your life. And they're going to charge you for it, by the way. They're going to ask for the right amount of money because that's how they're manifesting their financial abundance. So Neville Goddard said it's about standing in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So instead of focusing, let's say, on the dream man, It's, well, why do I want that? Because I want to feel loved. I want to feel reciprocity. I want to feel partnership. Okay, what does that feel like? That feels like peace. That feels like gratitude. And that's this energy of the opposite of the lack and the looking for something to prove that we're okay.
And as cliche as it might sound, it's within you, right? So you're looking for that from yourself. Ultimately, when you get right down to it, you want to love yourself, or you want to balance with your masculine, feminine. You know, all these things as you give them to yourself. You know, you see it, but that's, you know, this is the challenge of life. Is, you know, I don't know that we're gonna go out tomorrow and be like, oh, I'm all perfect, and you know, we're ever evolving, working on that. But that's really, I feel, where it's coming from. You know, oftentimes we're looking for someone else to validate us when we need to find a way to help ourselves validate our own essence.
Can I?
Yes,
share
please,
another,
Mark.
a personal story from in my 20s and 30s. I used to work in the outdoors, and when you're working in the outdoors, you're putting people in stressful situations on a regular basis. They were overcoming stress. And one of the things that happened while I was instructing, there was a group of us, and there was one person who was really wanting to really succeed at this one particular climb, and failing in her opinion, just couldn't do it. And when we went back to the pub at the end of the day, you know, to have our celebratory drink, what great climbers, masters of the universe and everything, I noticed that as the story was being told, all of the climbers, the ones that knew how to climb, were drying their hands on their pants, or they were drying their hands on their shirts. And I kept watching it, and I realized that every single person, when that person was telling their scary, spooky, exposed story, every single climber was immediately going into it. And that's why climbers have so much chalk, that you see them putting chalk on their hands, because their hands get sweaty. And here they were sitting in a pub, drinking a frosty cold ale, and their hands were sweating at the thought of what that person was going through. And I watched it, and so I watched this over a course of a week, and I said to a dear friend of mine, I said, let's put her on this one particular climb, a 5'9". Let's put her on a 5'9". He said, she won't do it. She can't do a 5'9". And I said, I get that, but I have a favor. Let's let other people belay her, and let's you and I sit down and do, as she's climbing the route, a route that she's never done before, let's just feel it in our own body of us doing the climb. You do it your way, I'll do it my way, but we'll envision her doing the climb. And she was freaked out by the whole thing. Anyway, she tied in, and she started the climb, and she walked straight up it. Without a hesitation or beat. Her hand went right to the key spot, and her other hand moved down, and she shifted her body in a way, and everyone's like, where did that come from? And my buddy looked at me and said, that was freaky. And to what both of you are saying, it's one thing when we receive and we get these messages and we understand them, and we radiate or embrace and send them out, but it also affects our community. So while Lisa was talking about the community or watching television and always being inundated with that fear and that worry and the resentment and the anger and processing it in our body, when we receive another way and we radiate back out, which is what we do in our Sangha here, that changes everything exponentially as well.
And the beauty of this is the Buddhists talk about karma in this way. So I come from a family of activists. My women who are empowered and feminist and protest for the things they believe in, and go out and take action. And sometimes they might get caught up in what's wrong with the world. And the Buddhist teachings say that actually creates more of that karma in the world, versus us having a phone conversation in our pure genius, getting excited to share this talk with you guys, is contributing to more of natural disasters decreasing that much more. One more poor person actually being in their joy and figuring out how to take care of their family in a way that's sustainable for them. It's where we place our focus, and putting the energy toward helping somebody climb rather than focusing on someone worried about what they're incapable of doing. And there's no coincidences. I am really passionate about learning about attachment styles and empowering dynamics versus disempowering dynamics. And I just was watching a YouTube video over the last few days, kind of broken up. In psychological circles, we have something called the drama triangle, which is the victim, savior, perpetrator dynamic in conflict, but this can also happen on the more meta exponential level. And that the opposite of that is the empowerment dynamic. So where instead of being a victim or seeing someone as a victim, we are, or we see everyone as a creator. Instead of being in the savior role where I need to fix or help or make the world a better place, we're in the challenger role where we know we can challenge ourselves and others to be, more equipped. Actually, I transpose two too. So that's the persecutor, challenger, right? So instead of aggressively telling someone, well, you know what you need to do this, this, and that. That's why you're unhappy, right? There's a love there, but it's coming from this place of, I know what you need, and if you change, then I'll be happy for you. Where we challenge ourselves and others to know that we're all capable and equipped. And then instead of the savior, instead of needing to save someone or fix someone, there is the coach, right? There is the, I see you, I can envision you doing it. And okay, here's what we need to tweak so you get there. And so we can be that in our own lives. And this is karma in action. This is another meta practice, right? We can sit and envision, or we can go out into the world and be this in our everyday, in our challenging moments to keep coming back.
Well, and as you were saying, it's like what are we adding to the collective consciousness? Everything.
Well, the very, very beginning of the teachings of the Buddha, the very first reading from the Dhammapada, which you read for me, I think the first time you read. The Dhammapada is the sayings of the Buddhists, teachings of the Buddhists, is where you place your mind is the direction of your life. So everything hinges. The word Dharma, one of the meanings for Dharma is to place and to hold. Where you place your mind and how you hold your focus is the direction your life will develop. It will cultivate in that framework that you basically set up. And if you look at the third noble truth, which is the cessation of suffering or dissatisfaction, what he is saying is phrased so succinctly and dramatically in suffering. Pain is inevitable. That's physical material. Suffering is optional because it's mental, and that includes emotional. So the most basic teaching of how to direct your life from Buddhism is to realize what is optional and psychological and emotional, and work with that. Just this morning, I happened to hear a story that fits right in, so I'm talking too much as usual.
No.
This was a survey, and Jack Kornfield was talking about it, and he said he thought it happened at Harvard, but he wasn't sure. They had a whole group of Asian female students and also non-students. And they said they were doing a research on mathematical skills. And then very casually, they had the first group, and they said to it, that was on one side of the room, the other one on the other side of the room, they said, don't feel bad if you don't do well on this, because women don't do so well in mathematics. The opposite side of the room, they said, you'll probably do really well because the Chinese just are great at math. And when the test was over, these women, none of them knew each other or anything. The data was startling. The difference in those few minutes with just a suggestion given, you're not going to do well, or you're going to be superior. the scores, he didn't know what they were, but he said they were really surprising to everybody.
I've been exposed to this before. So when I was doing my yoga teacher training, one of the women in the group was pregnant, and one of the teachers was his son was young, and he recommended a book to her. And it was, they talked about several studies like this where they even had children mark on a test in an experiment if they were Black or Hispanic, because it's so embedded that, oh, well, these groups, these demographics perform this way. If they had to fill that out, if they were Black or Hispanic, they did more poorly than if they didn't fill that out. And it's shown in, the male versus female, the math versus the verbal. So much of this, it's data isn't your life.
Monique, as a coach though, I think the problem is not what the coach can say to help the client. All he can do is work with the client to change
Stimulate.
how he talks to himself.
Yes,
You can't tell him
exactly.
much of anything, really. But if you can get him to change his self-conversation.
Yep. That's where, again, right, I might kind of do these send-ups of certain hyperbolic representations of these concepts and ways of being in the world. But how many of you have ever used affirmations? Okay.
We love
We're-
affirmations. Let's say it together.
Sure.
How does it go? Okay, all right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about our parents and these kind of influences. And he remembered it and I didn't, from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I'm good enough.
Chase.
I know this one. I know this one.
Everybody join us.
Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough.
Everybody ready?
Okay.
I'm good
Good enough.
I'm
smart enough. And doggone it, people like
me.
me. But the point of that is, right, so this is where I've taken issue with the world of affirmations. I've even stood up in circles sometimes where I witness someone. How you use them, and our subconscious knows when we're lying. Okay? So if I were to be $1 million in debt, if I were to be $1 million in debt and just keep telling myself every day, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, the psyche knows. But I can say I am exponentially wealthy, right? Because that is true. So we have to be really, really honest in this process. And we were going to talk about grounding. We're pretty much done. We were going to talk about grounding and some other things. But this in and itself is grounding. So I'm good enough. Where's the lie there? I'm smart enough, right? And you know what? If people don't like you, well, then that's what you can change. And it's really up to you to spend time, ideally, around people who do like you. And the ones who don't, well, that's their problem.
And I think the affirmations, like if you catch on the seeds of things that like you might be denying to yourself but are true, like if you're thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, and you phrase it in such a way that you're like, no, I actually am underneath, and I've just been kind of lying to myself. I've been taking on what other people have put. So things that do touch in can help you blossom past the, what you've unfortunately taught yourself from the outside world.
Yeah. And I'll leave it with this one thing, right? Who knows if that whole sketch wasn't born out of something with a really true and loving intention beyond just making people laugh and poking fun at the self-help community.
We still remember it, don't we?
We still remember
Much
it.
humor is like that.
Yeah.
All humors like that.
Yeah. So,
Great.
I like that's a perfect mantra.
Good place to wrap up. I think it's time for some meta.
It's meta. I have one comment before we go to
Sure.
meta, which is, it was interesting when you spoke of the hippies and more conservative people. You did take a mocking tone. That was cultural.
Mm-hmm.
That was what you knew culturally. What that really was a matter of going from conditional to unconditional. It's a default position of dualism, which is material and is the pragmatic side, and what is non-dual, which is the hippie side.
Yeah.
Which they were moving, and we have these two things working all the time, where it comes together. But that's where so much misunderstanding comes in. That people put people down because they don't understand the person who is less material. And so it's beginning to come around. Anyway, to loving kindness.
Or were there any other comments before we?
Yeah.
It's just something about what you were saying, Ruthie, and that whole thing about the hippie thing. I years ago, I was very interested in all the unknowns and all the hippie stuff, and I investigated and was really, really fascinated by it and studied it. And then, my sister got cancer. She explored it as well. She wound up dying because she didn't, a number of reasons, but didn't follow the conventional path because that other stuff sounded good. So from then on, I was like, well, wait a minute. Seriously. And then it was kind of like, well, that doesn't pan out. And I've studied this, and that's not true. And so these days, I'm kind of in this netherworld of, I know there's truth to it. I know there's truth to all that stuff. And for me, a lot of it is bullshit, but a lot of it is really true. So I'm kind of trying to find my way through that whole balance of not knowing and knowing from my experience, but maybe my experience hasn't extended far enough to know that that's true.
I think a good resource, if you're interested, because my favorite thing is stepping into the unknown and then having a good structural way to sit within it and feel safe. That's essentially the component that's often missing, is this sense of like safely being held as you're seeking and pushing past the boundaries. So some of you may have heard of the book The 4 Agreements, right? And then there's a book called The 5th Agreement, which is essentially trust but verify, right? So it's explore all of the things. Be open to it. Be willing to recognize when there's something that is maybe our own experience that's leaving a residue of trauma around something that then makes it a little bit less safe feeling to go there. And know that that's okay too. Hold compassion for yourself and all of it. But the best wisdom traditions, even the ones that are more in the kind of out there sphere, if you really look at the advanced teachings.
Out there is not out there.
Exactly. It's
there
everywhere.
Is in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's also all around us.
Yes.
So you need to drop that out there.
Okay.
Woo woo. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to be a whole person, you get equanimitous with that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that was a good point needed to be made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay.
I didn't mean to put it down, but you do have a slight tone of like being apologetic or defensive about that which is not of form.
Yeah. I think because I live in a
Not of the
community
senses.
where a lot of people are being
That's
burned by
exactly
each
right.
other.
This is what
Yeah.
you're dealing with,
Yeah.
which is why I'm jumping in and sounding critical.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be critical. I mean to be coaching.
I appreciate it. It's wonderful. And it is walking that line. It's walking that line between supporting people who are expanding in this way and going inward, and supporting the people who are supporting that. But it comes down to, for example, the 4 Agreements. I know about 1,000 people who reference them. No one has ever referenced the 5th Agreement to me. So it's this. It's receiving the coaching lovingly from each other and being willing to go just a little bit deeper as we feel resourced to do it. and not a moment sooner than that. There is no place any of us have to be.
I think in all teachings there's a greater depth than wherever we are, right?
Yeah.
So I loved when you said that. It's like, yeah, there's what we know of it and what we've experienced based on our life, and then 10 years later you're like, oh, I know so much more about that now than I couldn't have seen then, or
Just stay open.
yeah. And that,
Sushi.
can you say it again?
Sushi.
Sushi. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
We're running
Wonderful.
meta.
Yeah, one more note there. I was born in 1935, so by the time the hippies hit the scene, I was already having babies and being grown up. And I was like, oh my God, they're here, my people. They've arrived. So,
I love it.
and I think the main question is, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Mm-hmm.
When you can answer that one, it's a question you can ask a lot of people in their own personal lives. Anyway, here's meta. We're ready to go. Everybody know how to do this? Those who are new, just follow along. I'm going to say something, and then you just do it. The coaching in me came out. Okay, here we go, dogs. Okay. Bring to mind yourself. Your wonderful, dualistic self. Close your eyes, and to yourself, picture yourself, say, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease. That's equanimity. It's just what we've been talking about. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. And now smile to yourself and bring to mind someone you love. See their face, smile to them, and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, smile to them and move on to your neutral person. If you don't know his or her name, just if there's somebody you see often or that waits on you and they're pleasant and you have, no ill will towards them, bring them to mind, and if you don't know their name, just address them as friend. Dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, you move on a little farther out on this circle of compassion, and you go to the person with whom you are in conflict. It can be an old conflict or a brand new one, or it's wonderful. A lot of people here now say they don't have anyone particularly, so just pick something. And say to this person with whom you are in conflict, with no malice whatsoever, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. now, we're going to release our hands from prayer position, if that's what they're in, or out of your lap, and place them over your heart. And you're going to bring to mind all sentient beings. We passed the 8 billion people, I think week before last, on this planet. We have no idea how many sentient beings are elsewhere in the universe. And sentient beings include animals, etc. Anything that thinks, feels. Bring to mind this phantasmagora of beings and say, may all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Take a minute or two. If you're at home, you can sit with this for a long time. But here, we release our hands, we open our eyes, we smile at our friends and our neighbors and everyone. And we end with this little benediction from the Unitarian Church. Now you get to speak out loud. So I'm just going to say a phrase, you repeat it out loud. Okay. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
Bowing to the mysteries.
Okay. Yay!
Thank you.
Oh, you were great.